Thanks for tuning in to 91.7 Education News. This is your host, Patty Newman. It is 5 p.m. in Brevard, North Carolina, and my favorite time of day because it's time for my favorite segment, Interview with the Author. Kids, young adults, teens, parents, I hope you're listening today because in the studio we are lucky enough to be talking to Marcus Zuzak about his book that was recently made into a movie, The Book Thief. Marcus, thanks so much for being here today. We are so excited to hear direct thoughts from you regarding The Book Thief. I'm very glad to be here, Patty. Thanks so much for having me. Oh, it is our pleasure, our pleasure. Let's begin with a question created by our own team here at Ed News for you, Mr. Zuzak. Then we will ask some really great questions written by students in Brevard area schools that were entered in earlier this afternoon. That sounds great, Patty. Let's hear it. Well, okay then. Here it goes. There are so many novels set during the Holocaust, but The Book Thief offers a different perspective. What do you most want teenage readers to understand about Liesel's story and this dark period in our world's history? I honestly just hope that they'll never forget the characters. This is the first time I've ever missed characters that I've written, especially Liesel and Rudy. I also hope that readers of any age will see another side of Nazi Germany, where certain people did hide their Jewish friends to save their lives, at the risk of their own. I wanted them to see people who were unwilling to fly the Nazi flag, and boys and girls who thought the Hitler Youth was boring and ridiculous. If nothing else, there's another side that lives beneath the propaganda reels that are still so effective decades later. Those were the pockets that I was interested in. That is so true, Marcus. Both Rudy and Liesel's characters especially gave readers a different perspective of Germans living in Nazi Germany during the Holocaust. Okay, this next question is from Susie Quackenbush. Susie is in 8th grade at Hopkins Middle School, and she would like to know, how did you decide to make Death the narrator of the book? An excellent question, Susie. Thanks for sending that in. Yes, Susie, that is a great question. I decided to make Death the narrator with great difficulty. I thought, here's a book set during war. Everyone says war and death are best friends. Death is ever present during war, so here was the perfect choice to narrate The Book Thief. At first, though, Death was too mean. He was supercilious and enjoying his work too much. He'd say extremely creepy things and delight in all the souls he was picking up, and the book wasn't working. So I went to a first-person narration, a simple third-person narration, and 6 months later I came back to Death. But this time, Death was to be exhausted from his eternal existence and his job. He was to be afraid of humans, because, after all, he was there to see the obliteration we've perpetrated on each other throughout the ages. And he would now be telling this story to prove to himself that humans are actually worth it. A very interesting answer to a fascinating question. The next question is from Stephen Groh. Stephen is in a creative writing class at Applewood High School. Stephen, thank you for writing in. He asks, your use of figurative language seems natural and effortless. Is this something that you have to work to develop, or is it innately a part of your writing style? Great question, Stephen, and I'm glad you're interested in figurative language. I'm going to answer it like this. I like the idea that every page in every book can have a gem on it. It's probably what I love most about writing, that words can be used in a way that's like a child playing in a sandpit, rearranging things and swapping them around. They're the best moments in a day of writing, when an image appears that you didn't know would be there when you started work in the morning. At other stages, it takes time. It took 3 years to write this book. And some images remained from start to finish, but others were considered and reconsidered dozens of times, if not more. Often, to keep the workday flowing, I'll continue writing the story and then come back later to develop an image that hasn't worked from the outset. I might even take it out completely. A very insightful answer and packed with great advice for our young aspiring writers out there. Marcus, listeners, we have time for one more question, then we are going to take a short commercial break. This question is from Samantha Westland, an honors student at McCall Middle. Samantha would like to know, What inspired you to write about a hungry, illiterate girl who has such a desire to read that she steals books? Great question, Samantha. I think it's just working on a book over and over again. I heard stories of cities on fire, teenagers who were whipped for giving starving Jewish people bread on their way to concentration camps, and people huddled in bomb shelters. But I also had a story about a book thief set in my hometown of Sydney. I just brought the two ideas together and realized the importance of words in Nazi Germany. I thought of Hitler destroying people with words, and now I had a girl who was stealing them back, as she read books with the young Jewish man in her basement and calmed people down in the bomb shelters. She writes her own story, and it's a beautiful story, through the ugliness of the world that surrounds her. Okay, listeners, come on back after the break to hear Mr. Zuzak read an excerpt from the book Thief. And after that, we will be accepting calls so Mr. Zuzak can answer your questions live. No pressure, right, Marcus? Right, Patty, no pressure at all. I look forward to hearing from the live listeners. Hey, that's the spirit. Okay, enjoy these messages, and we will be back on the air soon. You're listening to 91.7 Education News, and we are talking with Marcus Zuzak about his book, The Book Thief, an interview with the author. Thanks, y'all. See you after this break.